something completely different.
All right, here's something I want to talk to you guys about, and I was really debating what I wanted to say about this matter, and it was one of those things, I kind of practiced my show in my car, like not out loud, I'm not talking to myself, I'm not going, while in traffic, but I think about what I want to say, and I went over this speech I'm about to do. It's not really a speech, but I discussed it about 7 times in my head, and the first time I brought it up, I was really worked up, and then I was like, let me be a little politically correct about it. The radio business, if people want to admit it or not, I'm in radio and I'm also in podcasting, so I'm like a mix. But the radio business is not doing well. The radio business has not been doing well since about 2008 when they stopped paying for high quality shows because of the recession. And it's just really freaking sad because I saw the news with the company Odyssey that they laid off the Johnny Dare morning show on 98.9 The Rock in Kansas City after 32 years. He literally began that show when my mom had me in her tummy. Like, that's how long he's been doing that show, since right before I was born. And Odyssey, because of their layoffs, they also let go of a guy named Jamie Tanchik, who I'm Facebook friends with, out of Portland, and they let go of Jeets, who is a badass rock DJ out of the Pacific Northwest. And they let go of a ton of names. A guy named Joe Cruz that is great. There's about 30 people they let go of. And then over at Cumulus, they let go of a guy named Andrew Wapple, who's around my age, who is like the sidekick / board-op producer of the Half-Ass Morning Show on 93X, one of my favorite shows. And then they let go of Brian Zepp from the KQ Morning Show with Steve Gorman, I believe his name is. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is radio, whenever I go to radio conventions, or whenever I read these radio consultants or these articles online, it's always, what's going on with radio? Why aren't Gen Z listening to radio shows? Why are Gen Z flocking to podcasts? And even radio's now freaking out about video podcasts. Why is this going on? And some CEOs are in denial. Why is this going on? Because when you listen to a show every day, you gain a parasocial relationship with the host. You feel like they're your friend. And a lot of times it screws over the listeners because then when they meet the host and they're a complete asswipe, it ruins it. But you grow up and these people are in your car, they're in your life. And then all of a sudden, you have, and I got to be careful about how I say this, but I'm just going to say it because everybody else is afraid to say it. Because nobody wants to lose their job. But I am the voice of reason on this show. And I will say things that people don't say. And then you have the corporate side of radio that's absolutely, positively killing radio. You have these corporate suits of any position, the higher-ups, who a lot of times were not good enough to be on the radio. They were bland, but they wanted to be around radio. So then they get these jobs where all they're doing is keeping the lights on and crunching the numbers. Do you think if all you're doing to your product is keeping the lights on and crunching the numbers, do you think that effort doesn't get shown to the listeners? They can tell when the same 20 songs are played. They can tell when every single city has the same morning show, War of the Roses, Second Date Update. They can tell. People are not stupid. Radio executives think their audience is stupid. And a lot of times when these executives let go of people like Brian Zepp at KQ Morning Show or Andrew Wapple at the Half-Ass Morning Show, they get rid of these people that are sidekicks. And they probably think, oh, we don't need that person. But the person will add comedic relief. It happened to Dave Aiken, Weather Dave, on the Two Guys Named Chris show in August on Rock 92 and Winston-Salem syndicated. All these examples of these radio companies will get rid of a funny guy. Like they got rid of Spike on the Mojo in the Morning Show. They'll get rid of these guys that they're like, yeah, we don't need to pay them. They can have a bunch of people do his work. But then you lose the comic relief. I just never want to hear a radio executive again go, why is everybody flocking to podcasts? Why is everybody doing this? It's got to be crazy being an executive. It's also got to be a power trip. Because you never get laid off. Do you ever notice that? All the hardworking radio hosts, especially in the morning, who get up at 4 a.m. and bust their ass, like Johnny Dare for 32 years, and then you just get let go, they're always the ones that get screwed over as the radio host. You never see them go, oh, we should get a new, vice president, or we should get a new this or that, because they're not growing talent. I remember this radio host named Marconi, who's a controversial legend in radio. He was like, Ryan, he told me like 7 years ago, Ryan, you got to go to Chattanooga or one of these medium-sized cities to then grow a show and do this. But the problem is, the boomers are the ones that have all the jobs. If I were to try to get a show in Chattanooga, it would be replaced by Brooke and Jabal. I mean, they're not boomers, but Elvis Duran's a boomer. It would be replaced by one of those guys. And then you wonder where all the up-and-coming talent is. I'm very curious about going to the radio convention and morning show boot camp this year, because it's like, when I started going in 2011 or 2013, they're like, oh, well, where is the farm system for radio? Like, a farm system in radio is kind of like what baseball, or like they have like the G League and the NBA, and they have like minor leagues where people come up. That doesn't happen in radio anymore. At all. And I'm not trying to brag. You know how many former radio people that get laid off ask me for advice? I go, just be yourself. You got to have creative control of what you do always. That's something I looked up to with my former boss, Steve Dahl, is that he owns all his shows. You saw what happened with Howard Stern when he went to Sirius. He had to pay like $200 million to get all his old shows. Rover, my old boss, was not able to get the best years of his show because it was owned by the previous company. You always gotta own your own brand. And now, if there is a radio executive or consultant or boss that's listening to this and you feel called out, maybe it's because it's the truth. I've been recording for 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Make a wish. Here's my wish. Radio executives, I understand that the years of the Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern and early Bubba the Love Sponge salary doesn't exist in radio anymore. I get it. But do you notice that when you were investing in the business that things were popping? Do you notice that when you were putting money into things like Adam Carolla says you got to invest in your success? Do you notice things were popping and everybody was talking about radio? But do you notice once you half-assed it and you just forced people on air and you did things like this, that people are flocking to podcasts? Just take a little look at yourself in a mirror. This has been a nicer rant of it than I would have had yesterday when I saw that Johnny Dare got let go just randomly. He's one of my friends. It's like this. Think about the golden age of radio. And then Bill Clinton signing that bill in 1992 or 94 didn't help the deregulation of radio, letting 3 companies own everything. You still have a fighting chance, radio. People still listen. But I go out and about a lot, and people ask me what I do for a living. You know how many people under the age of 27 go, I don't listen to the radio? There's 22-year-olds that when they were 4 years old in 2008, that they were born in like 02, maybe 6 years old, the chance they could have had of beginning to listen to the radio was when they laid everybody off during the recession. So they have no memory of how great radio is. Radio has a fighting chance, but it needs to grow people. You can't just rely on podcasts, and you can't feel inferior to others because you have all this nepotism that goes on in radio where, this person got this job because of who their father is, but they're not putting in the same results because they're not their father. It's like Bronny James, dude. But what do I know? I know a little bit. We're going to come back on Happy Hour and get things started after this. Thanks for letting me rant. I just had to get it off my chest. I thought it was nice enough. Yesterday it would have been meaner. But yeah, radio executives, you have a fighting chance, but you got to grow the talent.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
RyanHoppyRadio.com